The Frog Prince. In the olden time, when wishing was having, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful, but the youngest was so exceedingly beautiful that the sun himself was delighted every time she came out. Near the castle of this king was a large and gloomy forest, where in the midst stood an old lime tree, beneath whose branches splashed a little fountain. So whenever it was very hot, the king's youngest daughter ran off into this wood and sat down by the side of the fountain. When she felt bored, she would often play by throwing a golden ball up into the air and catching it again. This was her favourite amusement. Now, one day it happened that this golden ball, uh, when she threw it in the air, it did not fall down back into her hand, but rolled onto the grass and rolled right into the fountain. The king's daughter followed the ball with her eyes, but it disappeared beneath the water, which was so deep that she could not see to the bottom. She began to lament and cry more and more loudly, and as she cried, a voice called out, "Why weepest you, O king's daughter? Your tears would melt even a stone to pity." She looked around to the spot from where this voice came, and saw a frog stretching its thick, ugly head out of the water. "Ah, you, old water paddler," she said. "Was it you that spoke? I am weeping for my golden ball. It bounced away from me into the water." "Be quiet and do not cry," replied the frog. "I can give you good assistance, but what will you give me if I succeed in fetching your plaything up again?" "What would you like, dear frog?" she said. "My dresses, my pearls and jewels, or the golden crown which I wear?" The frog replied, "Dresses or jewels or golden crowns are not for me. But if you would love me, and let me be your companion and playmate, and let me sit at your table and eat with you, and sleep in your little bed, if you will promise me these things, then I will dive down and fetch your golden ball." "Oh, I will. I promise you all," she said, "if you will only get me my golden ball." But she thought to herself, "What is this silly frog chatting about? Let him stay in the water with his equals. He cannot enter into society." Then the frog, as soon as he had received her promise, threw his head under the water and dived down. He swam up again with the golden ball in his mouth and threw it onto the grass. The king's daughter was full of joy when she saw it, and taking her beautiful plaything, she ran off immediately. "Stop! Stop!" cried the frog. "Take me with you. I cannot run as you can." This croaking was of no avail. Although it was loud enough, the king's daughter did not hear it. Hastening home, she soon forgot the poor frog, who was obliged to leap back into the fountain. The next day, when the king's daughter was sitting at the table with her father and all his courtiers, and eating from her little golden plate, something was heard coming up the marble stairs. Splish, splash, splish, splash. When it arrived at the top, it knocked at the door, and a voice said, "Open the door, you, youngest daughter of the king." So she arose and went to see who it was that had called to her. But when she opened the door and caught sight of the frog, she shut it again very quickly and with great passion, and sat down at the table looking very pale. But the king perceived that her heart was beating violently. He asked her whether it was a giant who had come to fetch her away who stood at the door. "Oh no," she answered, "it's no giant, it's an ugly frog." "What does the frog want with you?" said the king. "Oh dear, father, yesterday when I was playing by the fountain, my my golden ball fell into the water. This frog fetched it up again because I had cried so much. But first, I must tell you, he pressed me so much. I promised him that he could be my companion. I never thought he would come out of the water, but somehow he has managed to jump out, and now he wants to come in here." At that moment there was another knock. The voice said, "King's daughter, youngest, open the door. Have you forgotten the promises made at the fountain so clear, underneath the lime tree's shade? King's daughter, youngest, open the door." Then the king said, "What you have promised, you must do. Go and let him in." So the king's daughter went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in, right up to her chair. As soon as she was seated, he said, "Lift me up." But she waited so long that the king had to order her to obey. As soon as the frog sat on the chair, he jumped onto the table and said, "Now push your plate near me, so that we may eat together." She did so, but as everyone noticed, very unwillingly. The frog seemed to relish his dinner very much, but every bit that the king's daughter ate nearly choked her, until at last the frog said, "I have satisfied my hunger. I feel very tired. Will you carry me upstairs now into your chamber and make your bed ready so that we may sleep together?" At this speech the king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, and dared not to touch him. Besides, he actually wanted to sleep in her beautiful, clean bed. But her tears only made the king very angry, and he said, "He who helped you in the time of your trouble must not now be despised." So she took the frog up with 2 fingers and put him into the corner of her chamber. But as she lay in her bed, he crept up to it and said, "I am so very tired. I shall sleep well. Do take me into your bed, or I will tell your father." This speech put the king's daughter into a terrible passion, and catching the frog up, she threw him with all her strength, thwack, against the wall. And she said, "Now, will you be quiet, you ugly frog?" But as he fell, he was changed from a frog into a handsome prince with beautiful eyes. After a little while, he became her dear companion, and they were married, and they lived happily ever after. I hope you liked that one.